Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive.
This time we're
going deep into cybersecurity headlines.
yeah.
And
Some of these stories,
really threw me for a loop.
it's true.
It's,
The cybersecurity landscape is rarely calm.
yeah, and that's why you're here.
That's right.
To help us break it all down.
To make sense of it all and
Oh.
make sure that you know what you need to do to keep yourself safe.
Exactly so.
Let's jump right in with this first story.
Okay.
The Internet Archive breach.
31 million accounts.
Wow.
This isn't
Just some random website?
This is a
Digital library?
Yeah.
A treasure trove of history and information.
yeah.
If they can be targeted,
hmm
it really makes you think.
Like no one is immune.
Absolutely.
The Internet Archive is.
A highly trusted institution.
And this breach is a stark reminder that even the most well-intentioned organizations can have vulnerabilities. It just underscores the importance of robust security measures.
Yeah.
At all levels.
At all levels, okay. And what's particularly interesting about this case
Okay.
is that it wasn't a brute force attack.
Okay.
It was actually
The compromise of their JavaScript library.
JavaScript libraries.
Okay. For those of us.
Who don't speak tech.
Yeah,
Can you break that down a little bit?
of course.
So imagine a library full of books,
Okay.
but instead of books, it's code.
Pre-written pieces of code that web developers can use to build websites faster. Hackers managed to slip malicious code into one of these libraries that the Internet Archive was using.
So it wasn't a direct attack on them,
Okay.
but this hidden code gave the attackers a backdoor.
Wow, that's so sneaky.
It is a little bit like leaving a trapdoor.
Hidden under a rug.
Right.
You'd never even know it was there.
Exactly.
And that's why it's so crucial to be aware of these evolving tactics.
Yeah, speaking of evolving tactics,
This next story, scary déjà vu.
remember all that chaos after the hurricanes in Florida last year?
Oh, yeah.
Well,
It seems like the scammers are at it again. They're preying on people's generosity,
Mm-hmm.
desire to help.
during times of crisis.
Unfortunately, that's a recurring pattern.
We see it after any major event or disaster.
A spike in scams.
Yeah.
Cybercriminals are opportunistic.
They will exploit those situations to their advantage.
Yeah.
It's not even just about protecting your data.
Right.
It's also about being cautious about where you send your money,
Yes.
especially in times of crisis.
Precisely.
Always verify charities before donating.
Yeah.
Be wary of unsolicited emails or messages,
Right.
asking for donations, and report anything suspicious to the authorities.
Because it's like a 1-2 punch.
Yeah.
You have a natural disaster.
And then you have these opportunistic attacks
That's right.
that add another layer of hardship.
It highlights the importance of being prepared.
And informed.
Right.
Being able to spot those scams is crucial to protect yourself and your loved ones.
But sometimes
Yes.
the threat isn't coming from the outside.
Let's talk about insider threats.
Okay, insider threats.
This one always sends chills down my spine.
Yeah.
It's like something out of a spy movie.
Right.
What I thought was fascinating
And a little unsettling.
is that Credit Risk Monitor.
This is a company that analyzes financial risk.
I've heard of them.
They've now been targeted twice.
Oh, wow.
Once last year by the Cuba ransomware group.
And now again.
Although this time it seems like it was limited to employee data,
Okay.
this case really underscores the complexities of insider threats.
They can be intentional acts of sabotage or unintentional mistakes that expose sensitive information.
Mm-hmm.
And as you pointed out,
Yeah.
it's not uncommon for companies to be targeted multiple times,
Really?
especially if vulnerabilities haven't been fully addressed after that first incident.
So,
It's not just about preventing that initial breach.
Right.
It's about learning from your past incidents.
and making sure that your systems are really buttoned up.
Absolutely. It's about building a culture of cybersecurity awareness.
From the top down.
Okay.
Every employee from the CEO to the newest intern.
Plays a role in safeguarding that information.
It's like they say, it's not a matter of if but when.
Right.
You're going to have a breach.
But then once it's happened to you, once you think,
Companies would be extra careful.
you would think,
Speaking of being extra careful, this next story blew my mind.
hackers are using VS Code.
What?
VS Code, that code writing software
Mhm.
for malicious purposes.
It's like using a spatula to pick a lock.
That's a good one.
It's a perfect example of how cyber criminals are constantly adapting and finding new ways to exploit.
Existing tools?
Right.
Oh, VS Code?
And other similar platforms have become so essential for developers.
Yeah.
So by injecting malicious code into extensions or scripts, hackers can then gain access to sensitive systems.
Without raising any immediate red flags.
Wow.
Okay. That is both clever and terrifying at the same time.
It's a good reminder to be cautious about the extensions
Yeah.
that we're using.
Even on those seemingly harmless platforms.
Absolutely. Trust but verify.
Right, yeah.
Always do your research
Right, yeah.
before you download and install anything.
On your devices.
And then there's this quishing thing with the QR codes.
Oh, yeah.
No.
I consider myself pretty tech savvy.
But I'd never even heard of this before.
It's a relatively new attack vector.
But it highlights that creativity
Of cyber criminals,
Okay.
phishing stands for QR code phishing,
Okay.
essentially.
Attackers will create malicious QR codes that, when scanned,
Can redirect you to fake websites designed to steal your information or install malware on your device. That thing that we've all gotten so used to,
Right.
just scanning a QR code when we're out to look at a menu or to pay for something.
now has a whole other level of risk
Yeah.
attached to it.
But that doesn't mean we should abandon QR codes altogether.
Like any technology,
Right.
they have their own set of vulnerabilities.
Okay.
The key is to be aware of the risks and to take precautions.
So what can people do?
Well, you want to double check that URL
Okay.
before you enter any sensitive information. And just be wary of QR codes from unknown sources if you don't recognize the organization or the person.
It's best to just err on the side of caution.
Don't scan it.
Exactly.
Okay.
Speaking of things that we need to double check.
How about those software updates?
Oh, yeah.
The ones we all love to postpone?
Ah, yes.
The bane of every tech user's existence?
Right.
But in all seriousness,
Those updates are often our best defense against newly discovered vulnerabilities.
really?
Yeah.
Remember that Firefox zero-day exploit?
Yes.
And that GitLab flaw?
Zero-day exploit, for those of us
Oh,
who
right.
don't know what that means.
Yeah.
So a zero-day exploit is a critical vulnerability that is discovered and exploited by attackers
Okay.
before the software developers even have a chance to create a patch.
Oh, wow.
Think of it like finding a secret unlocked door into a building.
Right.
Until that door is locked, anyone can walk right in.
It's an open invitation.
Exactly.
So those updates aren't just about adding new features or,
Making things look a little bit prettier.
Yeah.
They're often patching serious security holes.
So they're important.
They are very important.
So hearing you?
It's that ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure,
Exactly.
but for your digital life.
That's a good way to put it.
Okay.
But, it's not just our computers
Grace.
and our phones that we have to worry about, right?
That's right.
I mean, we hear these stories about...
Vulnerabilities in industrial systems.
Yeah.
The things that control our power grids, our water supplies. It's a whole other...
Level of scary.
You're absolutely right. The vulnerabilities that we're seeing,
In things like industrial MMS protocols.
those are the systems used to manage and control industrial equipment.
Are deeply concerning.
I bet.
These systems were often designed without cybersecurity as a top priority.
I was going to say.
Back in the day, they probably weren't even thinking about that.
Exactly.
And connecting them to the internet without proper security measures can have disastrous consequences.
Okay, and how does this relate to, say...
The iPhone mirroring issue or customer-facing APIs, these seem like very different things.
On the surface, yes.
But they all share a common thread.
Okay.
The potential for unauthorized access to sensitive information.
That statistic, about 30% of customer-facing APIs being unprotected.
Yeah.
That's a huge red flag.
Okay, break down for me what exactly is an API.
Okay.
And why should I care?
If it's unprotected,
Think of an API.
or application programming interface as a waiter in a restaurant,
Okay.
it takes your order,
Okay.
a request for information or action.
To the kitchen, another software system.
Mm-hmm.
And then brings back your food.
Right.
The data that you requested.
When these APIs are unprotected.
It's like leaving the door to the kitchen wide open.
Oh, no.
Anyone can walk in, mess with the orders, or even steal information.
30%.
30%.
As companies are leaving the door open.
It's a scary thought.
That is a scary thought.
But it becomes even more concerning as we rely more and more
on interconnected systems and integrate emerging technologies like artificial intelligence.
Which brings us to our final topic today, AI vulnerabilities.
Okay.
Remember that story about the AI-powered call center that got hacked?
Oh, yeah.
10 million conversations compromised?
10 million.
10 million.
That's straight out of a sci-fi thriller.
I know.
I know it does sound like a movie.
It does. This is real life.
It is.
Yeah.
And the reality is that as these AI systems become more sophisticated...
They also become more attractive targets for these cyber criminals.
Right, because why
Why wouldn't they?
go after the low-hanging fruit?
Exactly.
You can go after the big kahuna.
That's right.
So where do we go from here?
Right.
If attackers are already figuring out how to exploit this, how are we supposed to prepare for a future?
Where it's even more pervasive.
That's a million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And there's no easy answer.
It's not about putting the brakes on AI development.
Yeah. It's about approaching it with a security-first mindset.
So what does that look like in practice?
Are we talking about...
Some kind of super sophisticated antivirus for AI?
It's much more multifaceted than that.
Okay.
It's about building robust security protocols into the very foundation
Of these AI systems.
Okay.
Ensuring that data privacy is a top priority.
From the get-go.
From the outset.
Right. And developing ways to continuously monitor.
And detect anomalies in AI behavior.
So not just building a stronger wall.
But having a really good security system.
It's a great way to put it.
In place to catch anyone
Yeah.
who's trying to get over it, under it,
Exactly.
around it.
And it's also about fostering collaboration
Okay.
between researchers, developers, and cybersecurity experts.
We need to be sharing information.
Sharing is caring.
Exactly.
Right.
Working together to try to stay ahead of these threats
Because this isn't a problem.
that just tech companies can solve.
You got it.
Yeah.
Something that impacts all of us.
It really does. Cybersecurity awareness and education.
Are more important now than ever before.
Than ever before.
Yes.
Okay.
It's about being informed.
Being vigilant and taking steps to protect ourselves and our data.
Well said. Well, I think we have officially reached the bottom.
Of our deep dive for today.
I agree.
We've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
Everything from, those breaches at those trusted institutions
Yeah.
to the ever-evolving tactics of cybercriminals.
And
But it's dipped our toes into,
the AI pool.
right, those risks and rewards.
Risks and rewards, yeah.
It's been quite a journey through this cybersecurity landscape.
Yeah.
But I think the key takeaway here,
Is that while these threats are real...
and they're constantly changing, so are the solutions.
Okay.
By staying informed, being proactive, and working together.
We can create a safer and more secure digital future.
Absolutely. A huge thank you to our expert
Thank you for having me.
for breaking all of this down and giving us a clear path forward.
And to all of our listeners out there, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.
Remember, knowledge is power.
Until next time, stay curious.
Stay safe.
And we will see you online.